Yeah, so like when we last left off, we were talking about, intentional training and kind of how we focus for competition and stuff like that. And that kind of got me thinking on, especially coming from previously doing jiu-jitsu and fighting full time, of like how approaching training and recovery and like how I have to think of longevity differently now is, how that's kind of changed up. And having to make more of the time we have in the gym, which we talked a little bit about, but also recovery is different. We're not as young as we were before, especially when we were training together all the time, and
some young boys.
And every little thing turns into a nagging injury for a while, and like I'm always nursing something small. It's never something major. Knock on wood, but there's always something small that you're nursing. You're always worried because you have to worry about how it's going to affect life outside the gym. Like I've got 2 kids, I have to think about that. Like, oh well, I can't do something that puts me up on the couch for 3 days, and I'm not able to play with them or not able to take care of stuff around the house. So a lot of time, like I'm thinking about that. Especially a lot of the guys I train with are older family men, professionals in their own fields, and so they also have to think about that. So like they always have questions about it, and so I think about it a lot more now than I used to in the past, because in the past it was like, screw it, we'll tape it up, we'll keep going, we'll worry about it when we get past competition day or fight night. We'll take 3 weeks off, just recover, or hey, I'll just fast real quick and it'll just heal itself.
Yeah, those were the Wolverine days.
Yeah, Wolverine
those
days.
Those days aren't here anymore.
Meathead mentality,
Love
work
it.
through it.
But dude, to that point though, for what this is just my 2 cents on it. When I hear that, I think of it like this. There's like a priorities. There's a priorities.
Like an order.
There's like a prioritization that you have to have with your approach to training, and I would argue that the longevity and injury prevention and being able to maximize your mat time, you said all of those things. Whether you're I would just argue that it's just as valuable if you do want to continue competing.
Oh yeah.
Because pick your priority. Whether it's like, well, I need to be healthy for the same reasons. I don't want a bunch of nagging injuries. I don't want to get injured at all. None of us are completely injury free. We're all dealing with shit. We're in our 30s, but you get what I'm saying, and the best way to be effective competitively is to always be on the mat and training. So it kind of points you get back to the same objective, the same logic of what you just said. Whether it's like, hey man, I want to be able to play with my kids. I don't want to be up on the damn couch dealing with like a torn knee, torn this, torn that. Or you're like, well, all right, I'll put it this way. It's one thing. This is, I guess, slightly different, which is that, as you said a second ago, if we'll deal with that after fight day. Like, imagine you're like, oh, I have ADCC trials, and if I win this, I'm in ADCC. These are like life-changing things. Maybe you're willing to risk a little bit more. Maybe you're not. If you're a dad, I mean, you could. If you're a dad and you're like, I might be able to put myself in a position to make a ton of money for myself and my family from a jiu-jitsu business perspective.
Well, but you have to get, you have to get to match day, right? And it's different on match day versus like at leading up to it. So
100%.
now you want to be as healthy as possible going into match day, because you're not going to be able to recover prior to it.
No, you're spot on. Well, and like again, like you want to be best prepared for trials, whatever you name it. You need to be on the mat as much as you possibly can. As much as you possibly can, whatever that is. Not everyone has that same availability to do that, but there are a lot of dudes out there who are really tough, who don't have a ton of a surplus of time to be doing hours and hours and hours on the mat. Some of them are very limited, but they make those training sessions like what we talked about a little bit earlier with 8 a.m. training. Like they say, all right, I have like an hour and 10 minutes. I'm going to make this the best hour and 10 minutes I possibly can. Juxtaposing that with what I have going on the next day and the next day and the next day and the many other things, family, job, or more jiu-jitsu or lifting, you name it, and being able to do those things effectively without crushing themselves in that hour and 10 minutes that they have.
Well,
so it still gets you to the same destination. My only point with the ADCC, sorry man. My only point with the ADCC thing was that it's like maybe you're a little willing to risk something slightly more dangerous because you're like, all right, I'll just take 2 months. I can live with it. Or 2 months sounds fucked up, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Maybe it's like, dude, I'll deal with like a swollen knee because I'm about to win ADCC, and this is going to change everything for me.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? But, but that's still the priorities thing. But for most people, that's not the case. Like literally one person is in that situation. Winning trials is one person. You get what I'm saying? Like there's fewer people who are going to actually see that through. It's a relatively small group, but nonetheless, it's still that priorities question. Like, why am I doing this? What am I working towards? And then, do you have an answer to that question? You make your time worth it, and you have to be smart as hell, dude. Because, man, I'm 37, and thankfully, right now, I'm in a position where nothing. I have some small nagging things, but they're small nagging things. They're manageable. Nothing feels awesome, but I'm not injured, man. I don't miss. I've been healthy for. Knock on wood for a little while, like pretty good. So I intend to keep it that way. I don't want to miss any training sessions. I still compete. These are still my goals. So that's my thought process.
And that too, like, even it doesn't matter what the priority is, right? Regardless, you have to make it from training session 1 to training session 2 to training session 3, because as much as you don't want to miss the other stuff, you also don't want to give up the jiu-jitsu. And this is better. Don't want to give up like your jiu-jitsu mat time, and so you also don't want to be doing things while you're on the mat that lead to missing it the next one. So you like thinking about, all right, I have 30 minutes to roll at the we finished instruction, we have 30 minutes to roll. All right, I need to make sure I pick the right partners, because I don't, one, you want to make sure you get the best reps, but two, you don't want to go with that guy who likes to rip heel hooks, because you don't want to blow your knee out because of some random thing. And part of that too is increasing, leveling up, but like increasing your skill level too. You're less focused on learning new things and more on practicing a skill set.
That's a huge part of optimizing and maxing out the quality of the time you have on the mat. Same scenario I said earlier. You got 60 minutes, whatever your window is. You're going to make it the best use of your time possible. And, dude, for me, I'd say probably the biggest thing that's kept me in pretty good shape and competition-wise, not available to compete because I'm not injured, is choosing training partners and declining training partners is really the word. That's huge, dude. Which is, again, another thing about 8 a.m. is everyone in that room has been vetted and they're all good. You're going to get – it's going to be the funny thing is it's harder training, but it's safer training because these people are all smart. They know what they're doing. Like, accidents happen, but for the most part, the accidents that have happened with me or with people I know, it's when it's like a random person.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely, that's...
Who isn't vetted.
Yeah. You have that new guy that walks in, says they don't know anything, and then, we had a scenario, someone said, I've been only doing this for a little bit, comes in and then rips a ankle lock. You're like, dude, you shouldn't be doing that. And so like that you're gonna have these guys that respect your training enough that they're not gonna do something just out of that. Hey, we all know you. I know you got me, bro. You don't have to. We know we're not gonna crank it because I know you have it. It's fine.
I'm gonna tap. Yeah, it's not a big deal.
I get a shot again in 3 seconds. It's fine. Like I can. There's not. You can take the ego out of it because there is also an issue with the ego and
you're telling me.
Lot.
Yeah, some of that's kind of cool. Some of the ego shit you need a little bit. Every once in a while, you're like, all right, let's fucking bang it out.
Yeah,
show you the motherfuckers. That's kind of cool. But you're right, dude, 100%. Man, I'm just saying that kind of like that's a slight meathead thing. It's just you don't ever want to completely be not. You don't want to get rid of the meathead shit entirely. You want to always have that. But dude, you're right, man. Fuck that ego bullshit, especially when we're doing that. Like, and with heel hooks or whatever, you name it. This is high risk stuff.
Yeah,
so just tap.
Yeah, you have the ability to
control quite a bit.
Yeah, well, and then on top of it, like this isn't everyone's full-time thing or whatever. You have to know that hey, you might rip a heel hook on that guy and he can't work for the next 6 weeks or more, depending, or like you that guy might be a doctor or a dentist, and you throw a wrist lock on him and break his hand up, break his wrist, and then or tear everything up in there. Next thing you know, he can't do his job, and now he's having to claim insurance or hire someone new or whatever. And so, like, that's
it's senseless. You're 100% right, man. It's this also comes with age. This is also like priorities. Like you learn this shit, and it goes back to where I'm like, no, I'm not training this new meathead. I'd stick one of the other young ones on him. Like, hey, you tough guy, you fight him. I know you. I don't know him. Like you've been deployed. Fight this guy.
We'll talk after you've worked with.
You can break that stallion. I call it breaking the stallion.
Yeah.
Like just beat this dude's ass. I just don't feel like it today.
Send the unbreakable blue belt at him.
That works. That works. But dude, to your point, one of our training partners, let's just call him the doctor for the sake of conversation. Dude there's been a lot of little bullshit injuries here and there that's just like popping up constantly. There's always a thing that he's dealing with. I mean, we all deal with it. I do it too. Same age as me. And he always finds a way to continue training, albeit in a modified way, and the way we kind of handle that is just like, all right, man, we're not, which is awesome, by the way. I mean, if I were in a similar situation, I might take more time off and wrestling, but he's a maniac, and that's why he's the man. But what's cool about it is we have the ability to bring him in and say, all right, he's like, I'm not missing training. He's like, if I have a pulse, I'm going to find a way to go in, which is fucking cool. But we do that, and we're like, all right, man, like, let's hey, first of all, I'm happy to see you. You texted me the other day, I thought you were fucked up for a while, but you're back. Fuck yeah, let's go. I want to train with the dude. He's like my guy. Anyways, he comes in, and we just basically do what we talked about. We're like, all right, so what are we not going to do today? We're going to avoid X, Y, and Z because it's just going to make whatever worse. And that's the cool thing about what we do. Now we'll label this section of the conversation under training through injuries. Yeah. But that is what it is. And like the thing, if you can manage all the stuff we talked about earlier, where you pick good training partners, you're aware, you're skilled enough that you're like, let's say you hurt your rib, let's say you hurt your wrist, your shoulder, you can kind of like hide those parts of your ribs tough, but like you get, let's say wrist or shoulder. Well, I'm not going to use that wrist or that shoulder as much. I'm just going to use my right side or my left side or something and just avoid the injury. Okay, so when I work containing and limiting the training so that it's not putting an injury at risk, there's still always an element of risk when you're rolling around with that. But this goes into what we were talking about, where you pick good training partners who you trust, who are aware of that injury and say, yeah, dude, like, all right, so I'm not touching your left leg. Done. Easy. I'm going to fight your right leg, though. And so, okay, so we go through all that. And, like, next thing you know, that dude who kind of, it's like a mental health thing. He's like, I got to train, man. I'm going to lose it if I don't train. Like, you're helping your bro out. You still get some, usually, at least individual I'm talking about, we still get awesome training. Like, he's like a freak, dude. It's too tough.
Well, yeah, and even this morning training with them, it's just, hey, let me convey to you, hey, I've got this thing or that thing that's hurting, and you trust your partner to work.
We lay out our medical records.
We all have to
review my documents. I'll review yours. Yeah, buddy. But it works, like you said, because there's a trust element to it, and you find a way to, because everyone's been training long enough. Ego is in check. No one's a spaz. We trust each other, and everyone's still good. That's the best part. Everyone's good, so it's like it's not really an issue. And so you vibe, you go, you bang, and hell yeah, like we get a good training session. He gets his hour, and he's like, fuck yeah, man, like. I'm still recovering from an injury, but I'm not more hurt. I got to sweat. Lungs are burning. Cool. Check the box. Now I can go on my life, and I'm fucking happy.
I can do the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And also dictating your training around your injury too, because I'm always got something that's banged up. When you train 5-6 days a week and you train and you focus hard, especially
for 20 years.
Exactly. You're pushing through it over and over again. And, so like now I have all these little things that are probably always there, like always have forearm stuff that's always burning. And, your legs are tired because you've been working with the heavyweights or working takedowns with bigger people. And, having to focus like, all right, maybe I don't do takedowns today. Maybe I'm going to work guard because otherwise I don't want one of these things to tear. It's feeling a little tight today.
Have you ever heard of BPC 157?
No.
So it's like this peptide that.
Oh yes, you shoot in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you like stem cells. You're supposed to localize the injection to whatever part's fucked up. But all the meatheads out there say it's legit. I've never used it, but it has my attention.
I know some people who have, and I know people who have tried to use it for some long-term injuries that have been bugging them, and I've heard mixed reviews. Like I know some people that are like, yeah, instant heals you up right away, turns you back into a 20-year-old for 5 seconds, and then some guys that are like, yeah, I didn't really notice a huge difference, and like I take like 18 different things every morning to try to keep moving, to try to keep moving day to day, so it's just like, all right, I'm going to take my creatine, my glutamine, my magnesium, and I don't know if any of that works, but
dude, creatine definitely works.
Creatine, that one's studied. We know creatine works, but I don't know about all that other stuff. But it makes me feel good. Makes me feel better. That's probably partially placebo, but
yeah, I do that too. Man.
You have all this stuff that you're just trying to make it through every training session so that you can keep training and. Because you also never know when you're going to have that match, or you're trying to sign up for something and you're waiting on another guy. You don't know if that other guy's going to show up, and that's always a problem, but it becomes more of a problem as you get further and more advanced in your jiu-jitsu journey, where I'm running out of years. I can't compete forever, or not. You can't compete in that certain level forever. You can still, if you train right, you can compete forever. But you're not going to have those huge opportunities forever. And you got to stay ready. You got to stay in shape and stay healthy enough that if something does pop up, you can hop right in.
You can take the opportunity.
And so you got to be smart. Sometimes I'm probably less smart than I need to. I need to recognize I'm not a heavyweight some days. But
every once in a while, though, for what it's worth, and I agree with everything you said, but every once in a while, you got to fight those giant meatheads, or you got to be the guy who fights the spaz who comes into the gym. You just got to be like, all right, now I'm in a little bit of a fight here, which is, I'll put it this way. Sometimes, I tell this exact conversation right now. I tell people this all the time, and but I always caveat it with look, every once in a while you got to get out there and you got to be the one who breaks the style. It's you got to remember why you got into doing jiu-jitsu. Part of it is I got to be ready to fight someone bigger.
You got to show them why you're the coach.
That's right. So sometimes you got to do that too. And so every once in a while you're like, man, let's do this. All right, get over here, little wild boy. I'm gonna fuck you up.
You sit there.
You try a little harder.
You're sitting there watching them tear apart a couple other people at the gym. You're like, all right, I think we need to bring you down a little bit.
Time to fight.
Let's get you back to basics.
Get over here, boy.
With everyone else for a moment.
Breaking the stallion. Breaking the stallion is what I call that.
Yeah, and especially you gotta work those big dudes sometimes. Sometimes they get a little too in their head about.
Dude, that's why we got into this shit, man. Every once in a while, I've been doing this 20 years now, and I remember when I first started this. I remember when I was white, blue, purple, but going that path, and I remember the first time I was able to fuck up some dudes much bigger than me. I was like, this is awesome. So every once in a while, I gotta go do that. It's kind of why you got into it. Yeah. Right? You just got to be able to hold your own. It's a balancing act. It's a balancing act.
You can't go too hard all the time, but... Yeah.
Priorities. That goes back to priorities. I'm all right, do I need to prove to myself? I've done that. I've proven to myself. I know what I can do and what I can't do with some spazzes, but every once in a while I got to remind myself that I can still do it, so I do it.
You start to forget, and you got to make sure...
Well, my priority is all right, now I want to be able to fight guys in, a tournament. I want to fight pros. I want to fight black belts, world champions, shit like that, so... Yeah, that's why, back to what we said earlier, priorities and training sessions and longevity, being on the mat the entire year without being injured to the best that I can do that, or managing my injuries if they come along, keeping the injury from being a 7, 8, 9 out of 10 down to a 2 or 3 out of 10, God forbid it happens, but that's something to 2 right there, because I can maybe train through a 2, 3, or 4, or 5 out of 10 rather than anything above that. And it goes back to what I was saying about our bro over there who's dealt with that. I mean, I've done that too. Luckily for me, I just haven't had to deal with it in a little while. We've all done that.
Yeah.
And I fully intend to continue doing that. Therefore, that's me saying, if I can confine and limit issues, obviously no one plans for a catastrophic injury. Those things, if they happen, they happen. You deal with it. But you're on the mat, sort of like the other side of the coin of everything we said. If you're on the mat that long, that many times a week, for that many years, you do increase the likelihood. Your exposure to risk is pretty damn high, but that's us learning how to manage that risk and being good at. It's like playing with fire. You're a pyro now. You're a flamethrower, whatever. You know how to control the flames, which is pretty cool. But you're on the mat that much, like shit's gonna happen. So you just remember that, and you limit it. You pick your training partners. That's gonna, in my opinion, like what we do when we're training at 8 a.m. with that group of dudes is gonna prepare me more for what I'm talking about, anyways, than fighting a bunch of spazzes. Like I'm not. If I go out against some dude who's X time Pan Am's world champion in an IBJJF tournament or whatever, it's like, what's gonna prepare me more for that? Training with Nakapan, who's actually that, or some 225-pound like just psycho who just walked in the gym. Like that's pretty cool. Got to show that dude what's up. Maybe that'll help him sign up, but whatever. Anyways, I'm not going out and fighting that profile. I'm going out and fighting the dude who's won a shitload of shit, like Nakapan, for example. So and that's better training, is what I'm saying. Anyways, and it's more controlled.
Yeah, exactly, and that's important in trying to trying to focus through that is important, and you also want to think about or one thing that I try to think about is I think I've already talked about it a little bit, but getting to the next session, getting through the day. You have your rest day built in. It's like, all right, Sunday is the day I'm taking off. I go in, I get to recover that day. What do I need to do on that day
to recover?
Yeah. Well, it's like, all right, I know that I'm doing regular day hour of jiu-jitsu in the morning. I'm on my feet. I do 20,000 plus steps at work. I get home. I'm playing with the kids. That's a normal day during the week. But then on Sunday, it's like, all right, I'm gonna only walk the amount I need to walk. I'm gonna relax, put my feet up, hang out with the kids, eat what I need to eat, because I know that I'm not gonna necessarily get as much during the week, and storing up, and so you can start to plan every single day around it, and knowing I get this day to myself, I get this day, and I'm giving myself this day for the mats, this day for the mats.
This type of the prioritization gets you to thinking about that stuff. It's really good for you. Jiu-jitsu's the best. Everyone listening, goals. It's the goals in life, whatever they are, the priorities. That's what kind of gets you to doing. Like you accidentally plan like every little detail out, but in a good way. Yeah, it makes your whatever you're doing in life better. Like your time now is an asset that you've thought about, as you said. Like me now. It's Saturday at 12:20 now. I've done all my workouts for the week. Yeah. Like I'm not training again until Monday. I know that. I know exactly when I'm gonna get back in there and start working the body again. Tomorrow I'm recovering. Yeah. Exactly. The rest of the day I'm recovering. Dude, we need to talk about like actually recovery topics. We talked about how to train. I was gonna say
we'll go into recovery.
We could talk about that. That's like an hour at least right there.
Another thing that we'll probably get into in the future too is talking about we're talking a lot about right now, specifically how we're doing this because we're both competition minded, but there's also how you're applying this from not a jiu-jitsu standpoint, and that's another thing that we should get into, and we'll probably talk about in the future too, is we're talking now, all right, how do we have the longevity in this, but then how do you take that training mindset and apply it outside in ways so that, hey, how do you fit jiu-jitsu into your life, right? And so there's a lot of different angles we can go with this, and we'll probably bring it up in the future as well. So
cheers to that, dog.
We'll get to it.